All right, folks, welcome back. I'm working on the generator today. If you watched the last video, I went through and got the Briggs motor running and everything else working, but the generator wasn't outputting any power. So I did take the back cover off of it briefly just to see if there was anything major that stood out to me, and I didn't see anything. I thought maybe the capacitor was blown out, or I might have saw some shorted windings, but at the time the multimeter that I have been using is unable to test capacitance. I picked up a new multimeter, so now I can do that. So we'll do a few tests on it and maybe we can get it to produce power. These circuit breakers also seem to be bad. They were both stuck, so I'm going to try to test around those, and if I get it running right, I will replace them, but I don't want to go through and spend the money if I can't get it working, or if one of the windings is burnt out. So you can see I put some new screws in the back here when I last had it apart because they weren't very good shape. I tried to find a service manual for this generator. I found one for what I think is the next generation after this, with a few specs on the resistance for the windings. So I may base my test off that, and hopefully they're similar. I mean, they may not be, but I would say they ought to be in the ballpark. There's 4 volts in that cap one. Okay. Okay, there's a brush. Here's a broken brush. This brush must have been broken in my last assembly because I don't recall this being broken the last time I took it apart. So unfortunately, I must have not gotten it in place quite right and broke it. Okay, there's the old capacitor. It's an old electrolytic type. Now that I have this new meter, I'm going to test it and see if it's good still or not. I have a replacement. I went ahead and bought one because I figured it would be good to replace it regardless. We'll see what we can find out. Looks like she's seen better days. 270 microfarad. Here's this beast of a multimeter, massive. It's no Fluke, it's an Amazon brand, but it looked like it offered pretty good features for the money. I was actually bidding on a Fluke 1587 on eBay for a little over $300. I didn't quite win it, but I would have really liked to have it, so this was my second choice. .28 microfarad, well that's no good. For reference, here's the new capacitor. Same specs. Let's try it out. .262 microfarad. So that should be within tolerance. Okay, that's probably the issue, although unfortunately I screwed up this brush. Either I'm pulling it apart right now or putting it back together last time after I was looking it over. Well, you're gonna have to bear with me here. I'm an amateur at soldering, so might be a bit of a struggle. Okay, that's terrible, but I think it's gonna hold. Okay, there it is. It's attached. Get my sheathing moved up when it cools off a little bit. Yeah, that's much better holding in place. Okay, the capacitor's back in place now. I'm gonna pull off these circuit breakers here. Okay, there's one of them. Do a continuity test. Okay. Okay. Not easy to get that one out. Okay, let's see what we got. Good one too. Okay, the service information I got for a similar home light generator. 4400 watt generator has a resistance on the rotor of 67 ohms. So I'll test this one real quick. 64, 65 ohms. So that's pretty close. You know, there may be slight differences in the design between this one and the next generation, but That's in that range. And then stator resistance, we're looking at 3 different measurements. We have a black and white, a black to white, a red to white, and a yellow to yellow. Let me see if I can correlate those and come up with some measurements on them. Okay, I'm going to do black to white. It says the resistance should be 0.372 ohms. So I'll get on the black wire and go to the white wire. And if you can see the meter, whoops, I have bad connection here. We've got 0.377 ohms. It's jumping around a little bit because I don't have a good quality connection, but it looks like we're right on the money. Okay, here we're testing red to white. Again, we're right down there in the 0.3, the high 0.3 ohm range, so that should be good. It calls for 0.372. And then we need to test yellow to yellow. I'm going to use these piercing probes to get in on the yellow because there's not a good access without taking more of this apart. Okay, I think I got them now. And we're looking for 2.856 ohms. There, we were down in the 2s again. Connections jumping around. Now the 2 yellow wires go to the voltage regulator. I thought the resistance was dropping down enough. I really just think I want to put this back together. I don't know if this brush that's broken is going to work or not for the slip ring. It might seat itself. If I can get it working, I'll put new brushes in it. These are a pain to get on. There's like no room. You can see here, there's just hardly any room to get in there and get these brushes on and pull your finger out of the way to get it onto the where the slip rings are mounted to the rotor shaft. So I'll give that a try. We'll see what happens. I really don't know how you're supposed to get these brushes on here. Last time I tried to use a business card and hold them in place and come in and pull it out through one of these vent slots here. I guess I'm going to try that again. There's just no room to get in here pretty much with your finger and hold them in place and then pull it out. So I'm going to attempt this again. That's probably why that one's broken. I kind of feel like Andrew Camarada cutting a hole in his dash with a chainsaw for a new head unit. There we go. I figured out my approach was all wrong with these brushes. What I should have been doing is using a piece of wire like this. There's a small notch on both sides and you can run a piece of wire in and hold it in place. And then I think I can come in from this side and I might be able to pull that wire out. Wow, in fact, it's actually made for it because there's an open slot right here. So yeah, it would have been handy to know. You know, I wouldn't have had to cut the side of this out, but That's what happens when you work on this one-off stuff, I guess. You live and learn. There wasn't much information out there on it that I could find, and I was just trying to figure it out as I went. And that's not really going to cause any issues. This one brush has still got some meat on it. If I get it working, I'll replace the brushes and call it good. But live and learn, I guess. Because I was really scratching my head. I could not understand how you were supposed to get these brushes in here. There's one. There's two. Okay, I'll get you a little closer here so you can see. If you can see that, I've got the wire down in, the brushes are back behind. The wire actually then can be pulled through on this side to allow the brushes to then seat on the slip rings. So really not a bad design, I guess. I just was completely unaware that that was even an option. Wow, would you look at that? Easy as that. Put these through bolts back in and be ready for a test run. I'm sure if you're watching this and you've worked on one of these before, you'd be hollering at your TV or shaking your head, but it's part of it. Okay, here we go. Take a look from this side, see if they're seated properly. It looks like the brushes are on the slip rings. I don't see them off to the side, so that's good. That one still had a little meat left on it. Okay, I'm going to clean up here and we'll fire this thing up so don't shake everything off. All right, contact. Well, things really went downhill in a hurry here. I went to start it to give it a test run, and I noticed that it was leaking some fuel. I got in there and looked, and one of the hoses was cracked and had a hole in it, so I got it replaced. Then it was leaking some more fuel because I didn't have a hose clamp on it. Well, fair enough. I got one put on there. I was turning it over, and I pretty much had it flooded, and so I pulled the spark plug out just to check. I went to put it back in, was tightening it down, and she got loose all of a sudden. And I didn't think there was any way, but sure enough, pulled the threads right out of the cylinder head. You probably won't be able to see it, but she's basically screwed. So I don't know what I'm going to do now. It's kind of bad timing because I was pretty confident that I had the generator fixed, but now the motor's in need of some sort of repair. So I guess I'm going to have to break here and figure out if I'm going to drill and tap the head for a larger size or try to just find a new head or what. But it's kind of a shame. I was wanting to try it out. That's part of it, I guess. When you're working on junk, you never know. Something's always going to break right around the corner. So, well, it's too bad we didn't really get anywhere, but thanks for watching, and hopefully I can come back with an update and we can eventually get this thing going.